Harris, which was always denied of
Mas
Dominic for
pertama
the
guys,
longest time.
That's right.
But things have changed.
CLPA
Feels like a trap,
versus
though. I think that's the reason why
Aurora
they're gonna be so
Grand
happy
Final.
to do that.
Yeah.
At least banning on the Lancelot is pretty solid
Yuzong,
for both Demonkite
Josin,
and Carl Casey. But what are they thinking here?
Lancelot, Arad, Grok.
Because I don't think we even got to see the Harris first pick anymore in the previous
No, absolutely
days.
not.
But this is Aurora, which is why I'm really trying to look at what the option is going to be.
Aurora
But
selalu pakai
instead of
Fredrin
that,
guys.
There you go.
they go for the Fredrin first pick.
Which
And now
there it is. Right? It's crazy. Now it's the Harif who is going over the TLPH, who seems to be very happy to take that very quickly, right? It didn't even take a few seconds. They locked it in right away.
Yeah.
But we're talking about that Fredrin, Brigida. We talked about how crucial that
Jangan
Fredrin is,
maksa
especially for players like
assassin
Carl
lagi
Casey.
guys.
Yeah, the CC is also still open. If Aurora wants to consider
Baxia
that,
itu.
it's gonna work well, especially against the Gatot Kacha. I cannot recall the amount of times I've seen a curtain call just stop an AOG from landing where it wants to land. So that could be a potential pickup for Aurora. As we look at the first phase.
Ranger
No
lapu-lapu.
CC. No CC here today, Brigid. For some reason, it's open up until the very end. I feel like Sanford will be happy to take that.
Would he actually pick the CC here?
I don't know. It feels like a trap. Again, it's starting the mind games are starting to be very apparent here.
At least there will not be any threat of, let's say, an export coming in, because you already see what the gold lane of Aurora is, and even the EXP laner is already revealed to us here in the draft. So they're just gonna go
guys.
very tanky, and this is gonna be
Waktu kalah orang tuh bang.
Yes, 100. I feel like
Maksudnya
it's 100%.
Fredrin kok
Yesterday there was a
malah ya
Gatot
busa.
in the EXP. But I doubt that's going to be the case for this matchup if you're up against the Lapu-Lapu.
It might be a bit too slow if you go on XP Gatot, so that's my theory here. You want to be able to give that to JP, have some sense of control. JP has also been using the Gatot Gacha to block a lot of the bullets from Rangers. We've seen that yesterday, and I think we will see that here today as well.
Even when they were up against the likes of a Novaria, he's just going to be very... speaking of... they take out the Novaria immediately, but he's been very efficient, even prioritizing Twilight Armor just to make sure that he gets to tank everything for his team. And JP is really very comfortable with the Gatot Kacha, which I like, and that we're seeing right now in Liquid's lineup. But
Novaria di ban.
might go heavy on the mid lane bans. You can see the Novaria already being taken out. I'm wondering if the Eve could be the next consideration if you're Liquid, because the Fredrin Eve 2 looks like a terrifying combo if you look at it.
I love the Eve, the thought of the Eve making an appearance here, but at the same time, we're noticing something that's not panned out here. Where's the Kimmy? Where is the Kimmy here? Where's it going to slot in? So usually that has been on the first docket here for a lot of our games.
Yeah, that's true. So the Kimmy, the Eve could be options here for Aurora, but
Cecilian di ban.
They still took out the CC. They might be limiting the Alice is still there.
That's true.
The Alice is still
there, somewhere lurking with that gleam. I think he's gonna gleam in right in our faces anytime soon. But yeah, I feel like also, I guess you don't want to think about the Kimmy too much, because maybe he'll have a hard time against a Baksha because of the passive, right? Not to mention if they build up a blade armor. So yeah, so we're looking for XP laners as well. What? Benedetta, that's taking deep.
I did not expect that.
I did not expect that man too.
Yep.
Never mind,
We thought EUA would pick it up, but
Benedetta
no, it is
Steven.
going to be TLPH.
They took the Harith and the Eve.
That's very solid magic damage.
Amazing. These are picks I would have thought Aurora would prioritize or get their hands on more than Liquid would, but they're all in Liquid's side now.
Yeah, bring it in. That's all magic damage though. They need a strong fighter XP lane.
So maybe that's why we won't consider the Alice, or Aurora are not considering the Alice anymore too.
I think so.
They're looking for a bit more damage to come in the EXP lane, but the Arlot's not there, the Yuzhong's not there, and even the Benedetta gets taken out from Liquid as an option. And
Farsha Franco.
With a Farsha Franco combination.
Well,
okay.
They warned us yesterday that the new stuff was going to come out. Here comes the Franco. I think that's the first Franco of the playoffs so far. and the UA back on the Farsa. And now on that last pick, we talked about some good physical damage.
Yeah.
It's not what I was thinking. It's the Turisla.
Yeah, it is physical damage, but it's not
Not like the big damage.
it's not the same as the Yujongs and the Arlots or
It's not big damn.
but it adds up to the crowd control, to the layer of
TLPH atau
surprise
Aurora
that we
nih
can
guys.
see from them. I mean, the real world AOG.
Yeah, the amount of catch. That's
Yeah,
a lot of catch
that's a
right
lot
here.
Match pertama
So
kalah
we'll
mereka
see.
guys.
We are loading up
Pertemuan
into the
pertama.
map, ladies and gentlemen, for the first game of this best of 7. It is going to be one for the books. Let's throw it over to our esteemed TriCast, the We Bear Bros.
Rock hard, Brigada, thank you so much. An amazing pre-show, an amazing opening, and it's electrifying here at the Mpl Philipina Arena. It's Season 16's grand finals. It is us, the We Bear Bros, Nice Leo and Redmar, to take you guys through, hopefully, 7 games.
Ooh, 7-game grand finals, and we're in for a surprise. Light gets his Franco back. Liquid did everything they could to deny UA Heroes in the second phase of the banning by taking away Sicilian and Novaria, but he still ends up with a really great pick in the Farsa. Franco and
Ini
Farsa
kayaknya
together
mau
in the
ngelok
center of the
OHEP
map.
ini
But we're starting to
Franco
see
ini.
her again. With more Eves, we're getting reminded why Eves is such a nuisance now in this current metagame. Once she starts getting cooldown items on her, bro, she's gonna deal damage really quickly. In terms of the emblems, nothing too crazy. Still pretty much run-of-the-mill.
The reputation on Light's Franco rings true even in Season 16. Undefeated going into this game. So you know that even if the drafts
Lebih bagus drop yang kiri, Aurora guys.
status, everything that we've learned through the playoffs rings true. It's really interesting to have this specific draft for Game 1. I think the draft alone, no matter how many games we get, we're going to go through its own evolution. You know, we've seen very different shades of the meta already because of the way that Project Nest came smack dab in the middle of the season. That I think from draft up game to game, we'll see that shades of the different meta. Because, I mean, when was the last time, you saw the Eve and even the Turisla pop up for any of the games through the playoffs?
Yeah, typical rapid boots rush there for the Franco. You mentioned the Turisla. Team Liquid Philippines just decided to build a wall of beefy bodies because they know that Aurora loves to play a very tight formation, especially around UA, having an artillery mage and then Dominguez having a Granger as well. So Liquid just gonna look to stampede. If not in terms of the rotations, then in terms of just winning the team fights through sheer brute force. You'll have to watch Sanford and Edwards' timings here and which team can help which EXP laner better.
Turtle now at half health. Continue rolling Demon Kite out of that.
Oh, aduh bahaya guys.
Sanji catches a good amount of salvos. Sanford draws first blood on Demon Kite. Turtle gets reset. Yue chasing Sanji. A shield on this Eve. Not gonna save him from Yue. And Yue's
Mati,
way behind
anjing.
enemy lines. How's he gonna survive? Like it. Oh! The flicker back. Serving it up to
Tuh.
Demon Kite. He is ready. And in comes Kiel. Serving
Nice,
up a
nice,
kill
nice.
for the cavalry.
Oh, ini benar-benar grand final
Is
ya.
he gonna be able to escape this? Yes, wings by wings. He's trying. No way. Low. No one gets him. He survives.
A big overcommittal there by TLPH. Aurora will kill this turtle. Okay.
But Raiden.
Talk about a fight for the first objective of the game. And they went back and forth. They traded for kills, but ultimately that objective goes to the hands of Demon Kite. And so they get that. Again, they're holding on to this very minor lead for TLPH. You saw the stats there, by the way. The win rate between a classic gold lane matchup that we see in terms of the heroes. The Granger versus the Harris. Interestingly enough, that TLPH got that Harris too, because we all know, we've been talking about it all season, Domin Kite is probably the best Harris in the season.
Oh, yeah. Definitely the best record, best performance, rarely loses lane. Now he has his hands on a Granger who decided to rush a Hunter Strike. Nothing too greedy, not going for the Skypiercer rush. Of course, he's going to be second building that, but a different flavor. AOG
Nice.
Coming in, Daddy JP, Summon Force by OHEP, light in the middle of it all.
Whoa, 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 whoa.
Keep it, the homecoming hero
Wah.
light bites it.
Great use of the real world manipulation.
Mantap
No
sih,
more
guys.
Summon Force
TLPH,
here.
guys.
Drop back by Aurora.
And an airstrike coming through, several salvos caught in by the patriarch of the cavalry. No dice. They did get the revitalizing down from JP. Part of this too, and hold on, XP later is going to be doing out. The Sanford should be able to get away. Edward really stretching the limits.
Ini 2 XP ini gak ada siap-siapnya itu guys.
Both XP
one of the secret matchups that you can pair up against a Lapu Lapu if you have a good team building around it. Pick up the Turisla. Yes, initially, once you bring out the raging slashes through the previous fighter, once that's gone, the damage of the Turisla actually just sort of evens out the battle. So it's a bit
Ini
of a dead
mapnya
lane.
expanding
Waiting to
river
see
guys.
which team's going to be rotating towards the EXP lane more. But I think they're going to be okay with just leaving it as it is because both of them can manage well. They're just looking to outplay in terms of the objectives. Hopefully Team Liquid Philippines doesn't do the same thing that they did in the previous fight, which was take the fight right at the very edge of the
Tarik
RWM.
apa tuh?
JP standing his ground. He knows that there's very little follow through. All right, Hook's gonna land here. They're in position. We gotta watch out where Sanji decides to set up this RWM, but they're just gonna let the turtle. Liquid did not
Nice.
roll out response. An AOG called back. They will have to wait, and oh my God, the damage from Liquid. Edward and Demon Kite gone immediately. You just got dudes
PH mulai
jumping all
belajar
over the
guys
place. The
dari
cavalry
kekalahan
has
kemarin
evolved. They
guys.
have wings.
Big, beefy boys slapping me. That's it. That's what we're talking about. Just brute force, throw bodies, first damage, play around the RWM, and it looks like Aurora aren't completely ready for this type of Liquid lineup. They're used to having Sanford a little bit more, like a lot of technicalities with his EXP laners. This time, it's simple. Flicker and use the penalty zone.
It's a Tale as old as time. Fundamental MOBA tactics. Dive comp versus poke comp. The poke isn't ready yet. Liquid take advantage.
Yeah, actually you said the best. The poke isn't ready yet, but when things even out, that's when Liquid needs to slow things down just a little bit, because if they're not careful, Aurora have a fantastic counter punish lineup once they have their items locked in for the Farsa and the Granger. Hell, we're already starting to see teases of it. The fights of Liquid are getting expensive. They have to commit a lot to get a big win.
It's interesting how it's happening too, because it's a different kind of pressure from TLPH because of the fact that they have a penalty zone paired up with a flicker, and then you have JP jumping in as well with that AOG. So for Aurora, I'm trying to adjust to this, trying to go ahead and not, because you got to think about how much ground can be covered by that for TLPH. That's the problem that Aurora has to deal with. So I'm almost thinking best thing they can do is if they're able to get a pick off from Light, take out at least one member from TLPH. That should give them some of the advantage. I think the hard part too is for UA and Domin Kite to actually utilize the space they have. Oh no. All right, that's 2-on-1. Sanford eating quite a bit from this duel from Aurora. Edward and UA lay down a smackdown on 40, sending him home.
Okay, Team Liquid Philippines need to find the position again for this turtle. It looks like it will be an advantage for them, but Aurora, they are healthy enough to fight into this.
Oh,
Waiting for the
Granger
Feather
udah
F
Sky
for the
guys.
Farsa to come back. Domikai now has a Sky
Udah
Piercer,
ada
so
Hunter.
Liquid has to be careful because a big turn by Aurora will hurt.
Okay, they're going to start up half health on this last turtle of the game. Demon Kite and Carl facing off. There they go. Edward into
Nice, dapat box ya.
intersecting Demon Kite. Can Edward get out of here? Feather Air Strike.
Oh, rata guys, rata guys. Nice. Kalah guys sama mereka guys.
JP with the zone. Perfectly timed so that Demon Kite wouldn't even get in range. He didn't get to use the retribution there. Carl JD, very easy for him to fight the entry for Edward. Again, this is why we wanted to point out the importance of the timing of the entry between the two EXP laners. But there's also a Gato for the side of Liquid.
Liquid walked away with so much. They took the turtle, went the mid, called easy drive by Grand Theft Orange. 4,000 gold up. This is looking like a stampede. All of it's distributed pretty much evenly across the lane too, except for that gold lane, man. The gold lane difference right now, I think, is really playing into the stats that we mentioned earlier with the Harris versus
Grafik TLPH nih kayak nggak ada di Mac, tapi sebenarnya berdimek guys.
We don't see this Riz that much. You kind of forget how much damage he can take, especially with the passive that he has, that Bonnie and Smith. He's able to go ahead and just take a ton of this damage, set things up for TLPH, and then that gives the free reign for OHEB and the likes to go ahead and solidify that team fight, especially around the RWM. Look at this, they're gonna put them on the turret.
Oh, mati Brandon guys. Mati guys, mati guys. Mati guys, nice. Oh, OHEB nih, OHEB.
Map trade, 1-for-1, JP for DK. Light forced to use the freeze, and he still gets caught by Sanji. 2-for-1, Liquid wins it.
Oh my goodness, Team Liquid Philippines are still going for Domin.
Nah, gue cek guys. Dapat.
And Domin Kite back it off. Still alive. Edward buying time for his gold later. Not too sure if Edward's ready this. Go ahead. Another salmon force.
Gila ya
Liquid
Aritnya
holding
guys.
on to this, pressuring the tier 2. Really spicy there onto that tier 2 turret.
The sheer amount of health and resources that Liquid has. If this game was a little bit closer, Aurora would have gotten an even bigger punish. But good that they were able to balance things out with the light hook and flicker plus the
Level 12,
fight.
level 10.
But
Udah lot
Liquid
aja
are
lah.
still sticking to their main idea, their main strategy.
Yang
Play for the
level.
Harith, play around the Harith, and this time what they're doing much better now compared to their previous series up against Aurora earlier in this playoffs was that they're marking the other points of entry. There's always at least 1 or 2 members of Team Liquid Philippines off
Bisa
to the
nih guys,
side
lot aja
while
guys.
the 3-man main fight is happening with the other members of Aurora.
And that's the problem here. Light, he's trying to land these hooks, but even if you pull someone, it's not a guaranteed kill. Oh, kill's going to be used by JP. Lord's going to go for a little bit of a reset. Demon Kite's still up there.
Ini bahaya ya, operasi masih lepas 11 guys, masih lemah guys. Lotnya nice.
Again, Sanford and JP able to provide such a big front here.
Yeah, they have fantastic item builds here. Already full build the anti-Karas for the Terizla. While JP, I love that he went for Dreadnought armor, didn't full build that, and then went straight for the Athena shield. That's why he can just stand in front of Aurora right now and act as the secondary Terizla. While Sanford's also the secondary Gothic Gacha. The interplay between the Roman EXP of Liquid is what's giving Aurora so much difficulty, because they're both too tanky.
Yeah, this is what we were saying
TLPH
earlier.
nggak ada pemain Indonya kan.
UA is going to be a big part of that damage profile on the far side, and Domenkite's going to have to get there on this Granger. And it's been solved by TLPH, at least for now. They still maintain this lead. They're going to have to set things up here, deal with this Lord that's pushing up on the top side. They'll most likely lose that tier 2 turret. But now for Aurora, what can they do here on the defense? What are they capable of turning around to get this game?
Buat biru ya.
Well, if they have to reach, this is a perfect defense comp that Aurora has. If Liquid decide to throw bodies and mess up, it's going to be dangerous. They forced the flicker out of Domenkite, so let's see if Liquid will force any issue. But the thing is, there's no minion waves at mid. They might try to play through the Lord. The minion wave at bot not going to be enough. But no, they can't risk it at this point. Again, they have the far side of the Granger, which is already up to a Malefic Roar. So they have to be
Menang
careful.
ini guys.
Domenkite was fighting for his life. They will save this tier 2 in mid, but at 12 minutes, Holy Shields just retract anyways. Aurora does well to defend against that first Lord. It's a bit tough too, because when you get to this point of the game, you're really thinking, Aurora, how do they turn it around? Might be it's that next Lord, but they have to figure out the puzzle here, man. The puzzle is TLPH's objective fighting. That box, literally the box they're able to set up with the RWM, is, I feel like, problem number 2.
Yo,
Problem number 1 is getting past
immortal
JP
aja.
and Sanford setting things up before they even get a chance to get in that range. So the job for Aurora is even more difficult. I mean, even Demon Kite can sit in front of that all day he wants, but if the rest of the team can't join him and he's zoned out, he's going to continue to die like he has.
Yeah, already up to the Magic Lantern after the glowing wand for that Eve. You see the Lapu Lapu and Frederick both had to build Radiant armors. I wouldn't be surprised if that'll also be a Radiant armor for Light later on. Because right now, the magic damage brought out by the 3 heroes on the side of Liquid, the Eve, the Gatot, and the Harith, it's what's stopping Aurora from being able to fight comfortably. They played around the pick-off style roamer up against a roamer in the Gatot Gacha who can just stand, front, hold, use their revitalize. That reapplies the pressure now to Demon Kite, which, again, needs time. But then he couldn't get that time because he also had to act as a secondary frontliner for the team. So it was a risk that Light ended up with a Franco.
Level 13, level 15, tapi bahaya nih guys. Fighter ultinya ini guys, tapi nggak mau maksa ya berani guys. Oh nice, mati guys, preload nih guys. Nggak mau lanjut load, mau di end aja nih guys. Load.
That is economy dip at its finest showing. They just have too many items, too much damage. Aurora will have to play through the defense in base, and this will be Liquid trying not to mess up winning this game. Forced out the flicker from Sanji, though.
Yeah, you got to flicker out, but I think that's worth it.
Yeah.
It's worth it in a way, but man, Sanji has had a great game of just, I'm going to chill in the back, set up my RWM, and the rest of everybody else will go ahead and shine off of that. Again, they have had such a difficult time playing against that box.
Yeah. You see, up to a Divine Glaive already for this even. I'm wondering, why didn't you build the Divine Glaive Rush? They already
Padahal udah jadi
felt this
radian
deficit
loh.
very quickly. He still went for the Blood Wings. Yes, he's an important part of the lineup, but at this point, you're going to have to accept that you need that magic penetration right away to sort of smoothen things out a little bit more for your team.
Crazy thing about it, too, is OHEB's a big problem for Aurora. They've had no answer to it, and he's just been able to go zombie force all over the place. They're going to go ahead and push it into the space. Lord's going to march up. They drop
Oh, Gatot. Mati serang gue.
Takes down Light. Ibukai and Edward are holding the ground, but Liquid have already broken in.
Konsil.
Lord here at an eighth of its health. Aurora just
Gak
wailing
mau paksa
away.
aja.
Liquid happy with what they got. They're inside the base.
Yeah, good discipline.
Yang
Good
mancing
thing
udah
Team
hancur,
Liquid
guys.
Philippines didn't force
Tinggal
anything
2
forward.
guys.
They're already happy with the kill onto line, which now again reapplies even an insane amount of pressure on this Lapu Lapu and Frederick. Liquid getting
Tengah guys, mau dihancurin.
If they go, that is a good
Wow.
from the
Kalau punya mati.
sideline. Edward cannot stand right in front of Liquid. Sanford goes. JP gets the mortality pop. Can he get out of here? Turret shots. AOG.
Aduh, hati-hati. Hati-hati guys, hati-hati guys.
One body. I feel like TLPH kind of messed that up. You know, they decided to go for the mid turret, even with a lead. I think they're surprised, even with this economic lead, that they still got punished. And that's
Ini
it.
buat Harit semua nih.
Again, one of the tendencies of Team Liquid Philippines, if they have a big lead, they're willing to take very risky fights, even when there's a one last base turret that they have to go through the lane that they're trying to answer. Sanford committed the flicker penalty zone. Would have been great if the turret was gone. But Aurora also has really good wave clear at this point. Yes, there's a deficit, but they're beyond 40k plus. That means they can clear waves very quick.
Ini Grangernya udah
Respect that,
full
unless
item
Aurora
guys.
turn things around again very late into the game. Something we already saw from them earlier this playoff.
Sandwich. Carl Teasy rolling out. Catches one. AOG. That gave me the flicker from Dominic, and of course a few salvos
Oh,
from
legendary
Dominic.
guys.
JP fights it. DK.
Tiga tengah mati ya.
They went
Mahal sih guys, tukar President guys.
They scouted Aurora out, but still they only
Reload.
end up trading the 1-for-1. Lord's gonna come up here in a couple seconds, so they'll make their way.
Yeah, but that's hella worth it because now it's about to spawn, and by the time the Lord goes down, Demon Guy wouldn't have even spawned yet because Liquid can flip this comfortably.
They're gonna have to go ahead and secure this. Edward Light, are they gonna try to delay this? I don't think they're gonna be able to do much off of this. Surprise, they're gonna face them down. Edward, he'll just say hi on TLPH. They'll get back to base. Demon Kite will be up for the defense. And we'll see TLPH approach the base, trying to get the last two base turrets down, potentially ending the game. Aurora stop the bleeding.
Yeah.
So this is comeback territory. We've seen him do it from 13,500 from the same damn team in the upper bracket finals.
Yeah, Liquid had some weird tendency in season 16. I think only around a 30 or 40% win rate, somewhere around that
1,
realm.
2, 3,
When the game goes
3
past
tengah.
18 minutes. My challenge for Liquid is for them to end it here.
Tiga-tiganya ada
Let's
immortal.
Aurora turn things around again and start off this best of 7 with a massive turnaround win.
See if they can do it here. Lord approaching up top. TLPH knocking at the base doors here, bottom and mid. Domikai sold his boots. He's got a winner's crown. He knows he's an integral part of the success on this defense. Lord's going to be worked on. Here's
Oh,
TLPH. AOG.
bubar,
Lord
guys.
disperses. Lord now underneath turret range. Aurora takes care of it. Liquid move on to that mid lane. Sanji with the real relation. The hook by Light. JP gets that turret down. Less damage coming in. Down goes Sanji. Aurora collapse on the Liquid.
Tuh.
Edward falls after he used that flicker. Aurora still
Bentar
in
ya
it.
guys.
Aurora
View-nya guys.
defends. We said that they have
Dia
great
ngambil
clear, they
duluan.
have great high ground defense. They only lost Edward, but they stay in the game.
Yeah,
Tapi
they're
midnya
managing
udah
the
hancur
minion
sih,
waves
Cok.
very well. Every time Liquid want to get close to ending things, all of that just for one turret. So now they have to watch out for the fact that Dominic
Ini
went for
kayak
the
gini
Winter Crown.
bahaya
He can
guys.
buy and sell
Kalau nggak bisa
immortalities
end
later
juga.
on. Now there's the Divine Glaive and magic lantern for you, which is why minion waves are getting cleared very fast alongside the fact that they have items already on this Granger. The Queen's Wings on that Lapu Lapu, they got that earlier, but the big item pickup, and which is why Liquid now have to be super careful, is that Demon Knight doesn't care if he's the first target. He already has the Guardian helmet. He buys so much time every time.
And looking at the KDAs on Edward, Demon Guide, hell, you can lump up Knight in there too. It's diminishing returns. These heroes haven't gotten kills, so Liquid in turn are getting less economy on the clapback, and we're approaching a point where economy rarely matters anymore. So they can just keep throwing bodies too. Aurora have found a way to play Liquid's game.
It's going to come down to the objective fight here, and again, we're looking to see if Aurora can actually have the fight that they want. They've been leaning towards light to go ahead and get the hook, to make a play there.
Yeah.
But they might just have to full on decide that we got to go ahead and contest against TLPH for this next Lord coming up in less than 30.
I think the main line of communication now has to be San. It has to be Sanji and Sanford. When Sanji wants to drop down the real world manipulation, Sanford has to be ready to look for Yue. Because the reason why Sanji got taken out in the last stage was that he dropped down the RWM, initiated, but Yue was free to be able to help reach Sanji, and those extra feathered airstrikes, and eventually the cleanup by Aurora was what took him down. So the Terizla and the Eve have to talk together, work together, and sync their ultimates so that Sanji will be safe. And even if Edward dives him, there won't be a clapback from Aurora.
Here we go. Lord's up to fall. Close to 20-minute mark here. TLPH still maintaining the lead that they have. They'll grab the buffs, give it over to Oheb as he grabs the purple and then the orange.
Oh, man.
Look at the positioning here, too, for TLPH. They know they don't have to rush this.
Merah buat biru guys.
With some of the advantage that they have.
Yeah, sad sword for Dominic, and that's bad news for Team
Belum
Liquid.
broken ya guys slotnya guys.
BOD already locked in for him. Yikes,
Karena udah maksimal semua nih itemnya.
Aurora, they can contest this, and Liquid, he may mess up. This is gonna hurt.
Oh, hati-hati guys, spreading udah mau full guys tengah. Oh, lornya guys. Matiin dulu guys, spreading guys. Mati, nice. Mantap. Gila guys. Ayan guys. Suran. Orang hebat guys.
Showcase of great skill here by both.
Tidak masuk berapa bang?
Coming out stronger in game one. And a phenomenal game for OM. 12-0-6, I think he was on the Harris. Let's throw it over to a panel to break it down.
Okay. We got a game. That was very, very decisive from Team Liquid Philippines here. Looking so strong right off the bat.
I think that was enough of a reminder of the Harris ban and why it has always been a ban for majority of the playoffs and the regular season too, after people have finally accepted the fact that you cannot let certain players get their hands on this hero.
Exactly.
But it's way more than that, Rahar. We saw just how well the hero synergies were for Liquid and this lineup. And who else did play the Harris in that game?
Of course, your MVP is going to be Oheb for that Harif. Really insane in movements. Again, 12-0-6. They tried to Radiant Armor their way through it, figured out, but it was just not enough.
Especially in that last part where we thought Yue got to fly away to safety, but no. There was enough damage from a single vision that came in from Oheb just to take him down. And this guy felt as if he had no struggles whatsoever from the laning phase all the way to the team fights. It was just, everything was on his terms. Like, if he wanted to use the Zaman Force, he had all the freedom to do so. He was never forced to use it just to get out, just to fight back defensively. And Liquid were so effective in ensuring that he was able to do his job.
Yeah, overall, it feels like it's because of that super beefy front line, the big beefy boys.
The big
Right in front of you. Look at the front. It's Carl Tizzy on the Baksha. It's Sanford on it. Even Sanford's on a Trizla, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
With JP on the Gaton already. How do you go wrong with that front line? All you got to do is balance out your DPS from the back, and you should be golden. And that's exactly what we saw here being done by OHEM as well as Sanji.
Yeah, I'm still not over that. The beefy beefy boys.
Thank you so much for that, Redmar Santa Cruz.
Thank you so much
Yeah.
for that beautiful line. Because that's exactly what we saw from Liquid. Every single time, Demon Kite even wanted to just walk up front, approach, and actually scout the area, because I think he's the guy who does that best alongside Edward. There could be a quick and immediate turn
Yeah.
from Liquid to just answer back or like pour all of their resources on Demon Kite, because I feel like the way that things turned, and for the longest time there was a more than at least 5k gold lead that existed between these two teams, and being this very damage heavy, team fight heavy lineup that they are, it's such an easy task for them if they wanted to commit, because they have countless ways of just stopping people from running away. The real world being one of those major ways that they always stop Aurora from getting to escape.
Yeah, and the ways that they're also stopping Aurora from getting those kills. You saw earlier Dominkai basically trying to snipe out Sanji, going into his face, and then being blocked by Carl Tizzy, being blocked by JP.
Yeah.
Amazing play, honestly, and that scored them. That cemented that game for Team Liquid Philippines. Although, mind you, it was a long game. 22 minutes and 4 seconds on the clock.
There were a lot of times where Liquid just wanted to end it. It was very obvious that they wanted to end it, but either Aurora found a decent trade in terms of kills. They were able to take, I think one time it was Sanji who they were able to find.
I think they traded Edward or Light for that, something like that, right?
So they had like really good clapbacks. So that stopped Liquid from just trying to commit any further into that, because it was very risky in
Oke,
itself
kita
against this lineup.
lanjut ke match
I
kedua.
think in a way
Game
you
kedua.
could also consider to have a lot of beefy front lines and dive, because